Hi everyone, I'm Natalia and welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to do a fun chat with all of you about how tarot for me over the course of years has evolved into a living, a living organism. Let's put it that way. Of course, I always knew tarot is a living thing that is not just inanimate object, but I want to talk about how it has evolved for me over the years. I want to talk about the way that I have learned to be very specific with tarot, to speak very directly and very specific with tarot. And also, I want to talk to you about jumpers. You know, when you shuffle the deck, then jumpers come out from the deck. I always find it very fascinating. I want to hear your thoughts on the jumpers. So yeah, let's just talk about chat about all of those things. I'm just in such an amazing mood. I feel like getting on here today and making a ton of videos. I have a ton of ideas. I feel very chatty. So I want to take advantage of the energies that I find myself in today. It could be all of the chocolate that I ate a few hours ago. I'm not a big fan of chocolate unless I crave for it like once in a blue moon. And when I crave, boy, do I crave. And I got my hands on absolutely amazing chocolate. I'll share it in my blog on Monday. So, having said that, let's talk about this, right? Let's talk about this amazing tool that, as you know, me being a psychologist always talks about how this is an amazing psychological tool that goes without saying. However, this also is to me just not just an animate object that I said earlier. This is clearly a living, breathing, its own, I don't want to say person because this is not a person, but its own, let's just say living organism. Let's keep it at that. And each deck has its own personality. A lot of you who are not new to tarot, and a lot of you who have quite a few tarot decks already know this. You may have already discovered or intuitively felt that each deck has its own persona, each deck has its own personality, each deck talks to you differently, each deck has its own energy. Maybe instead of living organism, that's the best way to say it. It has its own energy, its own frequency, and no two decks are alike. And in fact, the ways that this particular deck, thus interacts and communicates with me is going to be different the way it interacts and communicates to you. Because has its own energy. I have my own energy. And when you put two different energies together, a third is born out of it. And that third is what defines my relationship to those. And it is going to be deeply unique to me. And your relationship with those is going to be deeply unique to you. But for all, well, not all, a lot of us who work with decks know that they do have their own personalities. They will work with us differently. Some decks speak more vocally with us. Some decks speak more ambiguously. Some decks tend to be more mischievous. Brian Froud, Fiery Oracle, is very mischievous oracle for me. They always like to play tricks on me. And I think part of why it's not always a clear deck for me is because I'm deeply analytical and they know that I'm very analytical and very linear. And they're trying to teach me a lesson. They're trying to say, we're going to put you in a position where you have to give up control and where you have to think more abstractly, more magically, think outside of the box than always think it in this logical, linear way. And that's another thing is I feel each deck has a lesson to teach us. Each deck has something that they're here to give us. And that's the reason why we get paired up with particular decks. That's also the reason why some decks can stay with us and we work with them. And then we feel like we're done. We got what we needed from them and we pass them on. And some decks come in and we don't vibe with, but later we find that there is something for us with those decks. So for me, over the course of years, especially those has become such elemental energies. This is definitely a deck that I strongly feel the voice of. Um, not only Aleister Crowley and his strong analytical, logical mind, but also his trickster mind, his sadistic mind. And I often hear from the stack, Lady Freda Harris, her tendency to level things out, her tendency to be more grounded, and her tendency to um, communicate that through her artwork, not to mention her feminine energy in deck as well. This is also very elemental in the sense that I strongly feel the elements of fire, water, air, earth, and spirit in the stack, like I feel in no other deck at all. So it's a very, very personal deck to me. Now, there are decks that I pick up on energy like this, and then there are decks that, for example, this recent one, as you know, has become one of my favorite. I trimmed an Edge Mine. This MJ Cullinan Guardians of the Night. I will do in-depth review on this because it is a really, I feel, underutilized deck, or maybe not really seen in the light it needs to be seen. So I will do my personal depth perceptions of this deck. This one has a very particular animal spirit energies that she picked. They're all nocturnal animals. And because they are nocturnal, to me personally, they already have a very special relationship because I consider myself to be a nocturnal creature. Animals that I strongly resonate with, such as, for example, panther or a snake, are already nocturnal animals. So there's already that frequency resonance. But this stack also, apart from having those animals, those spirits, the animal spirits in the stack, are very much alive and very much want to communicate and talk to me. When I work with this stack, so for example, when I work with those, I usually will ask spirit guides to help me. Oftentimes, almost all of the times when I work, I call on the spirit and energy of Hecate. Hecate is the only goddess desk energies that I'm drawn to. I try to work with Lilith, another story for another video. And I have been drawn last year to Aphrodite. I still work with Aphrodite, but something about Hecate and I, over the course of now, I would say maybe 15 years, that has developed into a very deep relationship. This is a custom-made wood doll from Hagruk that was made for me. This is very, very special because Hecate energy to me resonates with me primarily because when I took Jack Rail, which is, by the way, fantastic class on Hecate, one of the things I learned is that she really is a threshold. If there was one word that I would choose to describe Hecate, it would be a threshold between and a threshold between past and the present, a threshold between things you're going through that are changing you, a threshold between even me making this video right now and time is ticking. And I started this video at 1 o'clock, but it's no longer 1 o'clock. I just gone through the threshold. It's a threshold of ongoing change that she represents. And Jack, in the beginning of the class, shared that he finds it interesting that people who tend to be drawn to working with Hecate tend to be people who also have a profession, a living profession that helps guide people through threshold one way or another. Nurses, medical personnel, death doulas, and definitely psychologists would fall into the realm. Not only would psychologists fall into the realm, but my work with transgender adults definitely symbolizes me helping people go from the threshold of the genders they were assigned at birth to the genders that they truly identify with. Talk about a very personal threshold. And so I think for that reason also it helped me understand and see why I just intuitively have such a connection to her. Not to mention my relationship to that period. So when I do call on, when I work with those deck, I usually call on the spirit of Hecate to help me out. Obviously, I call on the spirits of my ancestors who I'm very, very close to, my father, my great-great-grandmother, and my grandfather. Those are the spirits I call to guide my hand. When I work with a deck that is alive and vibrant with already inhabitants in the deck, I call on the spirit of these animals to, and I may still call on the guides of my ancestors, but I really primarily call on the spirit of the animals to see which animal spirit guidance wants to offer me. And it has been really, really interesting to work over the course of the years and to see how each deck has its own spiritual energy, has its own frequency. When I got Circle of Doors, which you all know I adore, this one, when I shuffle it, I just can't help myself. I call on the guidance of the feminine. This is very strong feminine. It's all-encompassing feminine. It is nurturing feminine. It is wild feminine. It is the dark feminine. It is the feminine that has been repressed. It is feminine that has not been expressed. It is feminine that is nurturing and loving. It's all of the essences of the feminine. I cannot help but call on the goddess of the feminine energy. There's no one particular goddess, it's just overall encompassing energy. So this one energetically is live and vibrant with that feminine energy that is just absolutely beautiful. I just recently got this oracle deck. This is new. It's Oracle of Hecate Pass. I pre-ordered it last year and forgot about it. And yesterday showed up in my mailbox. I already edged it. I'm not sure if I'll do a review of it because I haven't had a chance to work with it. It's 60 cards, shockingly. For Los Caribbean guys, 60 cards. I believe it is 60 cards. I was so shocked and so happy because, hey, give me more, give me more. Usually Los Caribbean is 44, so 60 was really, really a welcome surprise. But this one, undisputably, when I shuffle it, I can't help but call again on the spirit of Hecate because this deck carries her energy, her spirit. So it's really lovely to see how some decks, clearly you know what energy and frequency they have. Some decks, by just working with them, and maybe you're working with Rider-Waite-Smith deck, I'd be curious to know what energy that holds for you. I do have Rider-Waite-Smith deck, and when I work with it, I call on Spirit of Pamela to help me with the readings. And what's interesting again is how they all have their own personalities, don't they? When I got a Guardians of the Night deck, immediately this deck wanted to give me honest and clear guidance. Immediately this deck wanted not to beat around the bush. And it also wanted to help me see things I would not otherwise see. It's a very blind spot type of deck for me. But it does it in a way where it's loving, but it also does it in a way where it doesn't shy away from telling you. Quite a bit of masculine energy in this deck, actually. When I got, this is a funny story, guys. I saw that MJ Cullinan, the creator of Guardians, has other decks. And as you know, you may have followed me on Instagram, I got the Crow Tarot, which I'm still struggling to connect with. I won't lie, it is beautiful, but I'm struggling to connect it, even though I adore crows. I also got her Foxara Froxa, maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong. Tarot, it has a Fae energy in it. I love it. I'm connecting with it. I'll talk about it more. Maybe I'll do a video on like an MJ deck because the art, the reason why I'm learning, I love this particular deck so much is because of how she does artwork where it's really big scale, jumping out at you. And I love that about her artwork. And then I saw that she also has a dog deck, which didn't feel like my cup of tea. And then she also has a Raven's Dream, which is now out of print. And then she also has, I'm trying to think if there's another, and I think she only has this one that I got. This one is called Grimalkin's Curious Cat Tarot. There's the backs. I have etched mine pink. I have wanted to get a cat themed tarot actually for a while. I love cats. Um, I used to be a cat, I mean, I'm still a cat person, but there was a time when I got a dog and I fell in love with becoming a dog person. And so now you probably can't really convince me to have a cat because of all the furniture scratching, but I love cats. So while I would not own a cat right now, I absolutely adore and love cats, period. So I wanted to have a cat tarot for a long time because I love them so much. So there's the tarot of the cat people. The art wasn't really my thing. I also don't like cats to be seen as people. Some other cat decks out there. They've been trying to find one. And when I saw that MJ has this one, I thought, you know what? Maybe I'm gonna give it a shot because the artwork is very similar to Guardian of the Tarot, where she plays on the scale, which I enjoy so much. And I want to find you guys some of my favorite cards. Let me tell you about this deck. Let me tell you a story about this deck just to illustrate how our beloved decks have a freaking personality of their own. First of all, the lava cards in this deck. Look at this emperor. The lava cards in this deck it gives me a very much Frida Kahlo artwork vibe, even though the rest of the deck doesn't possess that. So that was already a win. Second of all, I thought this deck was going to be very Rider-Waite-Smith, but the way she writes in a guidebook about each cat personality and about the situation they get into, it is definitely very MG style, not Rider-Waite-Smith at all. And I heard a complaint, not a complaint, but I saw a review on Amazon where somebody said, do not buy this deck. They depict pictures of our beloved feline animals stabbed to death and Ten of Swords. And I thought that was kind of not fair because we see human beings being stabbed at the illustration of Ten of Swords. Of course, we understand that Ten of Swords, it meant to symbolize that finality. Seldom literal death. It is that finality. It means, it implies not so much you're dead, it implies you're pinned down with 10 swords. When you pin down with one sword, you can still wriggle yourself out. With two, same thing. But when you pin down with 10, there's nowhere to go. And if you try to wriggle yourself out of it, it's going to be painful. It's going to cost you. And that's what Ten of Swords illustrates to me. That's why you need to be pinned down with 10 to illustrate. You need to drop it. You need to let it go, whatever it is you're holding on, because it is overkilled by now. And so I just thought it was really interesting that there was that one negative comment, which I felt was, quite unfair. We have human beings. I love animals. I love fellow humans equally as I love animals. I love all living things. I don't wish to see any living things struggling or suffering. I'm sure none of us do. And so I just think that it's kind of like unfair criticism in my book. Here it is. This is the image that's on a cover of the box for the stack. I don't know about you. This is very, very strongly giving me Frida Kahlo artwork vibe. Just so beautiful. So to get back to share with you how this deck is has its own personality. I was on a fence of getting it. And I was on a fence of getting it because, I don't know, I just thought it's a cat tarot. It's kind of Rider-Waite-Smith. I think, Nat, you're getting a little bit crazy and obsessive with MJ artwork. And like usually you go and you just buy everything that the creator has created, which is very, very me. But then I looked at some cards and this card stole my heart, this Chariot. A totally chariot energy, the Sphinx cat trying to command this to what looks like Dobermans, just hunting. And I can't help when I look at the Tower card, I cannot help but hear Miley Cyrus racquetball song in my head, which just makes Tower so whimsical. And remember how in that song, I believe, if I recall correctly, it's a song about a breakup. And she is sitting on the racquetball as it swings back and forth, and it's about I'm coming at you as a racquetball. And if I remember correctly, and if it is a song about breakup, it's a very powerful image for a woman to be, on this racquetball that I'm not going to give up my power. I'm not going to let you wreck my life. And it just makes Tower looks a little bit different. So I was on a fence and I saw some of the cards, and then I thought, okay, I gotta have it. So here's the story how each tag comes in our life as a teacher to teach us something, and how they all have personalities, and they're all absolutely living, vibrating things. And this one is definitely has the spirit of a cat. Cats are deeply mischievous. Cats are very independent. Cats are very otherworldly. They have the mind of their own. Cats are divas. Cats are, they definitely know what they want and they will find a way to get it. I got this deck and I was so excited to edge it. And I was debating between this color and I also pick up color similar to this kind of teal green. So I thought pink, it's so soft, it's so feminine. Nat, go with a safe color teal. So I take the start with the full and let me put the full in the middle so we can see it better. And I did the full in the teal color. Oh no, it doesn't show because I did something to the full that I'll tell you. You see how the full shows because it's a little different color. So I did the full in the steel color here. We can see this on the side. See, I did it in the steel color. And then I realized, shit, I intuitively actually wanted to be pink because pink makes me feel playful. And this is such a playful deck. So I take out the full. And now, of course, as I go over pink on it, it doesn't cover because the teal is darker than color pink. So I'm all freaking out here. Anal me. I start scrubbing off the teal color. It doesn't scrub off. Then I take edge of the scissors, start scuffing up the card, which now has messed up edges as you touch the full card. Then I take a sharp blade and and I realize by doing that, I'm making the card smaller. Now it fits out in the pack. And I contemplated buying a new deck just because of this. And then I sat back and I started laughing. And I said, these cats are already playing with you. They're doing what cats always do. When I used to have cats, I used to have cats called, two of them, one called Chowder, one called Kimchi. Yes, always food names. And we also had two dogs. We had my pug, Freud, and we had Cane Corso, Schnitzel, seafood names, except for Freud. And I remember how Chowder, especially Chowder, would climb up somewhere on the kitchen pantry. And when he was pissed, he would knock something off on purpose and then look at me as in, yeah, is there a problem? As if, first of all, that's a given that I'm going to do it. Second of all, why do you think it would be a problem if I did this? It's not that the cats are mischievous. It's one thing to be mischievous and then feel guilty about it. They have 0 ounce of guilt. They will be mischievous and then they look at you as in, I'm a cat. This is what I do. I knock things off for a living. I wiggle my tail and things go down. And if you make me unhappy, things are going to go down. So I thought it was so funny how I just got this deck and it was already demonstrating its personality. It is going to be mischievous with me. It is going to do just like this, mess up a card where now nothing is uniform. It's not perfect. And it's also going to teach me a lesson. And it's going to teach me a lesson that get out of your anal ass, get out of your controlling, everything has to be perfectionistic mindset. And you know what? You're going to have a card in there. And it's a full out of all the cards. What a wonderful card to have. You're going to have a card in here that just doesn't go edging color-wise. And you're going to learn how to live with it and you're going to freaking love it. So I love it. A few days ago, I was doing a tarot reading and I did a reading. and shuffled the cards. The first card, I could just tell by feeling the edges that it was full card, and I was laughing because it became so much more endearing. So it's interesting how is immediately when the decks come into our collection, they can already display a sense of personality. And sometimes with a sense of personality, they're displaying immediately a type of lesson that they're about to teach you. If only you're open to learning it and paying attention to it, can be a really, really amazing lesson. And if I was not open to it, and if you have the card sticking out and rushed to repurchase the deck and pass this one on, I would be stuck in my perfectionistic way. But now every time I use this deck, it reminds me of just let it go. Things don't have to be perfect, and it doesn't mean that they're any less, they lose their value, their essence, or their beauty. So this is Grimalkin. If you're looking for a cat deck, I highly recommend it. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I etched it in Tim Holtz ink stain. I think it was called some kind of lipstick. Uh, some kind of pink lipstick. I thought it had a funny name, and I thought it was so perfect. So decks are definitely, for sure, without any shadow of doubt, are for me something that is very, very alive. As you, I'm sure a lot of you watching this are nodding your heads along and saying yes, because I think it's very rare to meet a tarot reader that has been working with the tools who would say that no, these are not, these are just inanimate objects, and there's no likeness to them whatsoever. Maybe there are that out there, but I have yet to see them. Usually people really do see the liveness. They can feel the heartbeat of the deck. So that brings me to my next discussion of how I have learned as a result of attuning myself to just how alive it is, to also talk to the deck. Because I realized that a deck is also has its own restriction. Each deck, because each deck has its own rendition of artwork, is restricted, I would say, to some extent, within the constraints of that artwork to be able to give me an answer. The same cards from those are going to give me an answer in a little bit different symbolic language than a Hierophant from here, than a Hierophant from Guardians, Guardians of the Night. The deck comes with its own personality and its own language embedded in the artwork. And as a result, it's going to talk to me differently. So it has to work within those parameters. And it's some way it is also expanded, but also very restricted by those capacities of that artwork. So what I have found that has been very, very helpful is sometimes when I need really specific and clear answers to ask the deck exactly for what I'm looking for. I'll give you an example. Many, many years ago, I had an intuitive feeling that somebody was doing something, talking or doing something not pleasant behind my back. And I had a feeling I knew who it was, but I wasn't really sure. But I had a strong, strong intuitive sense. And because it was such a specific question, when I was using those, I gave it very specific instructions. So I learned by using tarot over the years, if you want something super, super specific, don't be afraid to give it very specific instructions. My instruction was, if I think it is who it is, and I named it out loud, please, in 3 cards, I'm going to pull 3 cards. In 3 cards, let one card be the devil. And I kid you not, out of 3 cards, one of the cards was devil. And I remember when I did that reading, I had goosebumps. You know that feeling when we obviously know that a deck can be incredibly straightforward and honest and clear. And then there's experiencing that honesty and clearness. And that literally sends a shock wave of goosebumps down your spine. At least it does for me. It's one of those things that I know is true, but then I experience it as being true, which is just absolutely, it's so beautiful. I just think it's so beautiful. And so from that experience, I have started over the years, and that experience was over 10 years ago. I have started to be super specific if I'm looking for specificity. Now, because I oftentimes read decks very psychologically to just explore myself and explore my inner world, I don't need to be that specific. But once in a blue moon, if I have a very, very specific question, I will give deck specific instructions. If this if my anxiety, for example, if I'm sleeping at night and I have a recurring dream, which I often do, that to me indicates that I'm more anxious than I'm realizing in a conscious state. The recurring dream I always have is I'm driving a car and the brakes either don't work or I can slow down the car. It's always brakes a car. It's a recurring dream. I know by now, I had it so many times that when I do have the dream, it's my subconscious telling me you are anxious about something, but you're not aware of. So while you think you're not stressed, you're actually really stressed. So you need to figure out what's stressing you in your conscious life because we are compensating in your dream state to give you a warning that something is going on with you. And you know, for somebody, if you're not conscious of what's making you anxious, you wake up and you're like, well, I don't, is it work? Is it my health? Is it my life? Is it my relationship? Is it my friendships? Is it my, I don't know, content that I'm making? And so to be very specific, I will ask very specific questions. If this is my anxiety related to work and finances, pull me out of 3 cards. One card has to symbolize the suit of discs. If this has to do with relationship, it has to symbolize suit of water. Doesn't matter what card, or I can be even more specific for what card. And that's how I learned over the years to get very specific answers. Another thing I learned over the years in terms of being very specific with tarot is this. For me, and I don't know, I'd be curious to know if any of you have felt it, have tried this and felt the same thing. For me, what I have felt over the years is that oh my God, I had a sip of water and now I went completely blank the minute I had a sip of water. I'm having a big mind fart. I'm probably because I'm thinking about the chocolate, amazing chocolate that I had again. But we were talking about specificity, about, okay, guys, give me a second here. Specificity about tarot, and I was talking to you how you can ask tarot very specific questions. Okay, I'm having like a big mind fart. Hopefully it will come back to me as I'm filming this. And if not, oh well, maybe it needed to elude me. So that's in terms of specificity. Another thing about specificity that I want to say is on jumpers. Jumpers, I'd be so curious to know how all of you feel about jumpers. My friend Kasia, for example, she says, I don't trust jumpers. So when they drop out, she puts it back in the deck. I have my own relationship with jumpers. Again, it depends whether I specify or not. Sometimes I get jumpers because my energy is not centered, I'm not grounded. I can just even tell that they're jumping out because I'm anxious. I am just, you know, haven't had a chance to really collect myself. Sometimes I'm very collected and the cards will fly the heck out. So what I have learned to do with jumpers is I have learned to, as I sit down with the deck, I have learned to decide for myself. Am I going to do jumpers or am I not going to do jumpers? Because sometimes a jumper will fly out. I will see what has flown out. My mind immediately knows what card it is, and our mind is tricky. And if it's something that we don't want to see, for me, I will put it back in and I'll be like, no, you know, not taking the jumper. So I have decided to be very specific and very honest with myself. So when I start with the deck, because it's live and I communicate to it, I will tell the deck, I will take jumpers. So I will shuffle it and say, okay, today I'm taking jumpers. And as I do it, if anything jumps out, I'll take it. Or I will decide I'm not taking jumpers today. And I will tell the deck directly, I'm not taking any jumpers today. And even if they fall out, I put them back and I tell the deck, I told you we're not taking any jumpers today. So I'm very, very clear. I found that the more clear we are with our decks, the better off they are at being clear with us too. And that also, oh my God, I swear to God, I'm having the biggest mind moment because I had it again as I was talking about jumpers, what I forgot minutes ago, and now I forgot again. But it has to do something with asking, oh, Yes, I'm so glad the video is not over, is that I can share this with you. Okay, so another thing that I noticed is that apart from I swear to God. I'm just having one of those like I think I saw Racine in one of her videos today where she talked about how she's just having struggling with words, or maybe it was a video last week where she just can't find herself confabulated. I'm finding myself having these moments where I just completely forget things and where I completely can't think about them. But one of the things I found that also really works is talking out loud. There is something about I notice for myself when I've done readings over the course of years, when I would shuffle and I would think in my headspace, right? In my headspace, of what door do I need to go through today? And then there's something that I learned for me is even more powerful when I out loud say it to the deck. What door do I need to walk through today? Help me see which door do I need to walk through today. And I wonder if any of you do the same thing. And I'm starting to think, well, if I see this as living organism as its own world, like if I see this as really occupying cat spirit of this variety of cats that are in here, well, they're not mind readers. Um, just like I won't sit in front of my husband and look at him and think in my headspace, I want you to get up, David, right now and bring me a piece of chocolate. He can't hear me. Communication, in other words, between living things is spoken out loud. It is verbal. We need to hear it in order to understand it. And over the years, I started applying the same thing. And I thought, why wouldn't I out loud talk to the death? Why am I talking to it in my head? Sure, it is spirit energy, and spirit energy can communicate to us in that way for sure. But I found that there's something very powerful happens when I am verbally saying it out loud. When I verbally say, all right, mischievous cats, which cat wants to show up and tell me what door do I need to go through? Something really happens when I do that. Which animal spirit from this nocturnal, beautiful creatures wants to work with me tonight, right? Or with this one, it's usually, sometimes I call on Crowley too, because sometimes I just feel his energy and yeah, I just feel restlessness sometimes. I can't explain, put my finger on it, or Lady Frida Harris, um, or just I don't even refer to anything, and I just ask out directly what my question is for today. So I noticed that that has been really instrumental to me. So that's how I would get very, very specific to the decks. I would talk to them out loud, ask out loud. I would also clarify from the get-go whether I want jumpers or not. And I will also, I wonder if I put the book back, I'll show you something else. And I will also be very, very direct with them. I got this book a while ago because there were things in here that were interesting to me, and I started reading it. And one of the things, I'll write the name of this book below. One of the things that I found that was very specific, talk about getting very specific with our cards, is the way the author shares the way she looks at the timeline in tarot. Now, when it comes to timeline in tarot, for me personally, um, I don't think that tarot, for me, I learned that tarot doesn't look very far into the future because the future can change all the time. And even whatever tarot can predict, if you use it predictively, um, can be changed because we change and as we change as we change, um, our life and our circumstances, things change, and you may have gotten a reading, and it may completely be, by the time the change has happened, it may completely be irrelevant because change has happened because nothing in the future is tied. So usually in terms of time frame, when somebody asks me, well, when, if I do a reading for somebody and they're asking me, well, when, I usually will look at the number of the card and I will, to me, it will be like within weeks or months or something like that. But this was really, really interesting how she looks in here. So the way she writes about it is this. To her, and I found this was really fascinating, to her cups, because it's water and because water flows very quickly, it doesn't take long, for example, to drink a cup of coffee, cup of water or a cup of coffee. So for her, when you get a lot of cups, they denote days, right? So we're looking in terms of time frame, days. Once she says fire burns and it can burn for some time, but it still doesn't take very long to burn things down. So when she gets once, we're looking at weeks. Swords are planning, and planning takes a lot more time. Planning doesn't take one day, it doesn't take a week, it takes a long time for planning to come to fruition. So we're looking for months. And then pentacles are shoot of earth. So Earth rotates around the sun once every year. Therefore, in terms of time frame, we're looking about years. And I thought this was so interesting that she got water down to days, wands to weeks, swords to months, and pentacles to a year. I've never tried anything like that. And I thought it was really, really fascinating. And she also had it broken down by suits and by months. So January is aces, February are twos. So as you go down, so obviously it starts with January and it ends on, for example, the 10th are October, November are page of any suit, December is knight of any suit. So it's really, really interesting how she breaks it really down very, very specifically. And I'm not big on reading time frame in tarot because one, I don't want my readings to be that specific for me. I want to leave things more out in the open. But for those of you who do read time frames, I wonder how you look at the time frame, how you read time frame. Have you tried something like that? Because I thought that was really interesting and it made sense. It doesn't take long to drink a cup of water. So if you do have a lot of cups, that could be literally days. It doesn't take long to burn all the wood in your fireplace. And it does take long to plan things. So her way of looking at things really is making sense. And I thought it was really, really interesting way to get very specific, if one were to get really specific. So I'd be curious to hear, how do you guys get specific with this living thing? What personalities your decks have. If you want to do VR to this video, feel free to do VR to share which decks have which personalities, what lessons each deck has given you, or just share down below. Have you tried to get very, very specific in terms of, if I pull this card, then it confirms what I'm thinking type of things, the way that I did with the devil and a friend, where it just completely blew me off in terms of its clarity. So let me know, share below, and I hope you all have a wonderful Saturday. I think I might get some more of that amazing chocolate, and then I might shoot another video for next week for all of you. So I hope you have a great Saturday, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.